Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wholesale Change. It's the webcast and podcast from Distribution Strategy Group, where we offer thought leadership for wholesale change agents like you. And like you, Jonathan Bein, how are you?
Glad to be changing things wholesale with you.
Hey, we got a great show today. We're going to talk about a case study of AI use at a Millcraft paper with Travis Mlakar. So that's going to be a very fascinating discussion. And we just learned that he actually went to college where you used to teach, but you guys didn't overlap.
We didn't know. I also went to school there, so that was the more substantial experience for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you taught there. Did you ever take a class from yourself?
I wouldn't want to do that.
Did you give yourself a bad review?
Yeah, well, and that's part of why I'm not teaching there anymore. I just didn't like the whole thing of students reviewing teachers. I thought that was just a little bit upside down.
Conflict of interest, huh?
Exactly.
All right, so well, let me brag about you then, because I always say if you're going to go into business with a partner, choose a genius, and I did. And he
That's what I
invented,
did.
yeah, and invented Demand RX. Look, there's various tools out there to understand who the best prospects are in a specific geography, or to measure wallet share or market share. In my opinion, this is the best one by far because it starts with your data and then adds a bunch of intelligence and good statistical modeling to it, rather than starting with some abstract third-party data set that's not really related to what you do. It's got a portal you can use. It's a great interface. If you want to do great sales coaching, if you want to understand how you're performing in the marketplace versus your potential, reach out to Jonathan at jbein, Jbein, at distributionstrategy.com. Nice job, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's see. Today's show is brought to you by ORS Group. Distributors are constantly challenged with having the right inventory of the right items at the right place at the right time. Man, that's what it's all about when it comes to inventory. Without stocking everything everywhere and having expensive excess inventory, how do you reduce your working capital needs while having enough inventory at each location to meet customer demand? Sound familiar? It does if you're in distribution. ORS Group has a solution. ORS Group has pioneered AI and ML powered solutions for supply chain for over 25 years, and their models use AI and internal data such as customer orders, sales invoices, and inventory movements, as well as external feeds such as local weather, interest rates, housing starts, product sales, to find leading indicators that reliably predict product demand for every SKU in every location months in advance. One $25 billion global distributor uses ORS AI to cut back orders to nearly zero and double inventory turns. Wow, that would be an amazing, amazing thing to be able to get. Satisfy every customer with the exact product they need when they need it. Book your free demo of ORS AI by going to orsgroupai.com. That's orsgroupai.com. Fantastic. They're a relatively new sponsor, so we're delighted to have them. Also, Wholesale Change is brought to you by Profit Optics. AI is a business impact engine if you have the right roadmap. Make sure to see Nick Pericles from Profit Optics session at our Applied AI conference this June 4th through 6th, right? So if you haven't signed up, you really need to go to our website and sign up. It's going to be a phenomenal conference. Nick is a tremendous presenter. Profit Optics has led the distribution industry for 15 years in digital solutions to drive operational efficiency and maximize margins. Nick Pericles will share an innovative roadmap so you can guide your C-suite tech teams, vendors, and customers to outsized results with effective AI implementation. To learn more, go to appliedai4distributors.com. That's appliedai4distributors.com, and get ready to maximize AI as a business impact engine for your company. Again, appliedai4distributors.com, Profit Optics. And we have a brand new sponsor. I'm excited to announce that InterShop has begun sponsoring the Wholesale Change Show. In today's fast-paced business landscape, wholesalers are facing significant challenges driven by a new generation of digitally native buyers, the ongoing digitalization, and the rapid rise of artificial intelligence. With almost half of all B2B buyers now expecting seamless online access to products from anywhere at any time, wholesalers must adapt to keep market share and foster growth. That's where Intershop comes in as a leading B2B commerce solution for wholesalers. They specialize in supporting businesses like yours to increase revenue in today's digital-first world. Prominent analysts like Forrester and IDC recognize Intershop for their full-featured AI-centric e-commerce architecture, enabling personalized offerings, precise search results, and tailored recommendations for customers. Industry players like Bunzl, Highline Warren, and others rely on Intershop's B2B commerce platform to achieve higher conversion rates, sales growth, and internal productivity gains for their teams. To find out more, head over to Intershop today at intershop.com or visit us at the upcoming Applied AI Conference on June 4th, another one in Chicago, to meet Intershop's e-commerce experts in person. That's B2B commerce for wholesalers. Check out intershop.com. ORS is also sponsoring the conference. Over three for three today in sponsors of Wholesale Change, also sponsoring our upcoming hot as a red hot iron AI, Applied AI for Distributors conference. Okay, and now let's bring in the star of today's show, Travis Mlakar, who's the president of Millcraft Paper Company. Travis, thank you so much for joining us on Wholesale Change.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, hey, I know you've been at Millcraft for a long time, and you went to the same school that Jonathan taught at and attended. So I think, that's given that my athletic loyalties are to one of their rivals, Colorado State University. I feel like I'm being ganged up on here, just so you know. But why don't you kind of go through your background about, how you got involved in distribution? I know it's in your blood, so to speak, and your sort of path to where you are today.
Perfect. Yeah. No, so first off, thanks for having me. Give you, my background. Millcraft Paper is a fourth generation family-owned business. We've been around since 1920. And so I grew up in the business. I was a janitor growing up, worked in the warehouse, did everything that my father thought I couldn't mess up. And, so I grew up in the business, went out to the University of Colorado. We had a deal. I get a job and a raise somewhere else before I was qualified to come back to the business.
Wow.
So I did that. I graduated University of Colorado in 1997. At the time, it was the dot-com boom, so I did what everybody else did. I thought I knew everything now that I had a college education, and I went out, started a dot-com, rode the wave up and rode it right back down into the sand again, learned a ton, and moved back from San Diego to Cleveland to get into the paper business. So did that in 2002 after selling my business, and then been working at the family business ever since. Took over from my father in 2008. And was very fortunate to build an incredible team of people who have just done a wonderful job over the last 15 years or so, and really helped us kind of accelerate our growth platform and do a number of acquisitions and really change the business. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand over this discussion to Jonathan as the primary interviewer, since he's our AI expert, in a minute. But I do want to ask, have you seen, you talked about your experience at the startup sort of, rising and then crashing. Have you seen that video of that guy giving the commencement speech? And he's telling them, I wish you bad luck, because it builds, having to face these challenges builds character and grit in the long term. But I've never heard anybody say that at a graduation speech. I thought it was great.
It's absolutely true. I mean,
Yeah.
None of us like to admit that we learn more in our failures than we do in our, victories. But at least in my life, I think I've proven that that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also of note that you have some background in the tech sector at this point. Even if you were a young one when you were there, you've been exposed to technology, and that has a bearing on today's discussion, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. My background was, putting together databases of customers at the time. 1997, 1998, email was just coming out. We all still had AOL email addresses, and was putting together that model, tracking clicks at the time, and developing a database that we then leveraged to sell advertising. So it was a fascinating business to be a part of.
Let's for our listeners, let's try to understand a little bit more about Millcraft. What is it you sell? What do you think is your value proposition? Just take us through the business, if you would, because I think it's an interesting business. You mentioned getting email addresses in the period of the transition to the internet, but you guys are doing print, right?
Yeah, so great point. So Jonathan, our business is, we're a regional distributor. So Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois. We primarily service the commercial printing industry. That's about 60% of our business. And then we branch out from there. And we sell paper. So anything that you would see magazines, catalogs on, retail point of purchase displays, direct mail, that's the bulk of our business. We've changed over time as our customers have evolved. We now sell a lot of packaging material, everything from corrugated to high-end boxes and box material that would go into a Tiffany's type jewelry box. A lot of consumer-driven, high-end retail type products. So that's our business. Over the last 100+ years, it's really been a family relationship driven business. A lot of our customers are entrepreneurs. Many of our customers are family businesses themselves. So we've been fortunate to have customers not just for 10 years or 20 years, but for multiple generations. And so what's transitioned and what's happening is we're moving from a relationship driven business, still relationship driven, but how we build a relationship, how we strengthen it is changing with data and information. And so we've had to adjust our business. Yes, the mechanics are still the same. 70% of the orders that we take today will come in by 3 o'clock, and about 80% get delivered tomorrow morning by 9 a.m. So it's a just-in-time model. We do about 500,000 warehouse stock lines a year. So high volume business, very little margin for error. But I think over time, what we're recognizing is it's not just that day-to-day delivery. It's how do you look at it in aggregate? How do you help customers become smarter about their business? And how do you think ahead?
So would this be like print service providers as well as, you call them end users, like a end user commercial business that's just doing print? Help us understand more about that.
Yeah, so for us, a commercial printer is somebody that's getting paid to put ink on paper or a substrate.
Okay.
An end user might be somebody like a large financial institution, a large retailer who really is taking control of their supply chain. They're buying the substrates. They want to control what the products are. Many of them have a sustainability initiative, so they're looking at carbon footprints, they're looking at recycled content material and that type of stuff so that we can help them achieve some of their corporate missions.
Got it. Terrific. Well, you've created a really interesting business from an AI tech stack standpoint. I think your tech stack would be representative of potentially a company much larger than you are. You are a mid-sized distributor. If you could, maybe let's talk about some of the places where you are applying AI in your business now, and perhaps also where you might be going in the future roadmap, if you will.
Yeah, so probably the number one place that we have implemented AI in our business is really on order entry. We've deployed some AI tools. A lot of our orders are emailed into us on a daily basis. They tend to come over as a PDF attachment. And so we have deployed some technology that opens up those PDF attachments. Again, it's the same form coming from the same customers on a daily basis. And the AI model goes in and we can train it to understand where the PO number is, where the quantity is, where the product item number is. It extracts that out of it, creates the order or the data set, integrates it into our system, and automatically creates the order so our customer service doesn't need to do any of that data entry.
And when you think about the benefits of that, for you, for your customer, talk about that if you would.
Yeah, so we've been able to actually transition about 60% of our inbound orders right now are handled through some type of electronic means. Maybe 20% are coming over from our e-commerce site where customers are doing it all online. And then we've got some EDI, and then we've got probably 30% of all transactions that are running through that AI model that I described. And so it really frees up our customer service team. Instead of being reactive and non-value added, they can be a little bit more proactive with customers and spend their time doing outbound calling and reaching out to customers in a proactive manner than simply just reacting to, rekeying in what the customer's already sent us.
So this probably creates a better customer experience as well as giving Millcraft efficiency.
So we certainly hope it does. I think what we've seen is, from a customer experience perspective, our mistakes are actually down utilizing AI. Our ability to be proactive and call customers, addressing problems before they become big issues, has really gone up. And our ability to call customers and ask for that add-on order and saying, hey, do you want fries with that? That's a big part of our business now, and it's proven to be very profitable.
Travis, in my keynote speeches, I talk about how like the keyboard is such a clunky interface between the brain and a computer, right? I mean, the brain's this fast computer, you're going into a computer, and in between we have this, mechanical set of keys that was invented 150 years ago, right? It's like click, 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 click. And so when you have somebody call in an order, you've got like, okay, somebody thought of this order, they got a printout that they needed something, and then they converted it into words over a telephone, and then someone uses this clickety clack interface to put it in a computer. I mean, the opportunity for error is so high, right? And I think the fact that we're engineering around these things finally is a huge step forward. And did you develop this yourself, by the way?
We did. We had a team in-house. I mean, there are other tools out there in the market, but we developed this in-house. And, what we saw, what we're trying to focus on is we're looking at our business, our interaction with our suppliers, and our interaction with our customers. And how do we make sure that we're not, recreating the wheel, so to speak, that our customers are already dealing with? So if I think about an order coming in from a customer, particularly if it's by email or a PDF, somebody's already entered all that data one time, either into their system to create that PDF, then they've put it into an email and they've sent it to us. Now we're going to rekey it into our system
Right.
for a second or a third time. That whole idea just seems redundant and grossly inefficient.
Yeah, and I'm imagining if you were to do an ROI on this, the part that's easy to measure, it's $8, $10, $12 per order cost of entry times that 60% now, right? If you include both the e-commerce and the email, your total touchless orders are at 60% now. That's huge.
Correct. Yeah, no, it's huge. And what we've chosen to do is not necessarily think there's a negative connotation to AI, that implementing it results in job loss. And it doesn't have to. What we've found is we can take some incredibly talented people that know customers, know products, and they can be redeployed into other areas, because all of us have whiteboards that we've got ideas on where and how we can improve that the budget just doesn't let us go after. And so this for us has really opened up an opportunity to accelerate the change in our business.
Were any employees threatened or upset that they didn't have to enter orders anymore?
Yes, absolutely.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They were threatened. Some people thought that was their value. And that, oh my gosh, if I'm not entering that order, how am I going to be sure that it's handled for our customer the right way? Interestingly, now fast forward 6 or 9 months, and we are going through a ERP implementation that I referenced earlier. And those same people are now saying, well, we've got to make sure this works, because we have to get those orders integrated properly into the new system, because they now recognize that they can add so much more value proactively reaching out to the customers and trying to predict what the customer's needs, questions, and thoughts are, versus just being there and punching a clock for them.
But Travis, what you're saying their concern was that they thought customers might be let down by the new system. They weren't so much worried about their jobs. They were worried about, can the software do the job right?
Yes, correct.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. Have you heard that before, Jonathan? I think that's really insightful.
It is really insightful. It says that your employees care a lot about your customers, which
Yeah.
we'll back to later on. Let's talk about, is there a next area that you either have implemented or deployed AI or that you're looking at in your roadmap?
So certainly, I think actually playing into sponsors that you all have, we see pricing as being a huge opportunity for us as we begin to segment customers and look at where there's price optimization opportunities as one factor. And then, as I think one of your sponsors, the ORS group, just looking at inventory and how can you maximize inventory and demand forecasting for it, particularly through any cyclicalities in your business or seasonalities. Those are the two areas where we think there's an opportunity for margin improvement and working capital reduction in our business. So that's what we're focused on.
Let's go through these in order if we could. So when we think about the pricing, there's often a distinction between price setting and price getting, right? Setting is getting the list price, or setting the list price. Getting is probably a quote or something that happens where maybe there's contract pricing. Where do you see the AI having impact in either or both of these areas?
Yeah, so in our business, one of my mentors used to tell me that your greatest strength taken to an extreme becomes your greatest weakness. And for us, one of our great strengths has been our relationships with our customers. Taken to an extreme, one of our biggest weaknesses is our relationship with our customers. And at times, those relationships become very familiar and comfortable. And we lose sight of the fact that perhaps there's a price negotiation going on when customers are saying, Ian, is that the best you can do for me? Our folks are not always great at looking at data in aggregate and being able to group similar customers together. When I look at the 5,000 customers that we interact with, are we doing the right analytics to say, this group of customers, here's the average price for this many tons of products that they buy per year, backing up pricing with that? And so I think we've got to do a better job of analyzing and slotting customers into the right mix. And I think the other thing that we're seeing is as we begin to optimize pricing and as more business is going online, it's hard to negotiate pricing with a website. So we are not seeing the margin change and degradation through e-commerce that we had seen with telephone sales.
So, for example, when you talk about the segmentation, your commercial printers might be more price sensitive than your end customers, for example, or I don't know if that's the reality or not, but I can imagine.
Absolutely could be. And it depends on the type of commercial printer. So we've got probably 10 or 12 different subsegments under commercial printer. And we look at each one of those subsegments differently. And then we look at the size of the company differently as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think customer service people are just wired this way, right? I mean, if you look at the 4 P's of marketing, the product, price, and promotion, that's what we invest into the customer. The price is how we're supposed to get it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, product, place, promotion are what we spend. Price, how we're supposed to get it back. Customer service people seem to be wired to give price away as yet another thing for the customer rather than a way to get paid for all the other good stuff that they do.
But we're all trying to get to yes in the easiest possible format.
Sure.
And I think, if you eliminate everything else, it comes down to price, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to not let the customer bring it to, negotiate you into that corner where it's just about price.
Right.
But it's just not, you don't have that issue with these systems that take these orders automatically because there's nobody who is, averse to conflict or wants to be nice. The price is the price.
And I think the benefit of utilizing some of these AI systems to help you with pricing and data analytics is you can make sure that you're doing the right job for customers and slotting them into the right price. There's nothing worse than a salesperson that may have imperfect knowledge of the market pricing or a very skewed view of it, and you're pricing that customer too high. Well, you could cost them business, and that's not something that you want to do to a partner of yours. On the flip side, you also don't want the situation where you've underpriced something and you're jumping through hurdles and giving it away at a number that the market doesn't necessarily dictate that you should.
Right.
So when you think about the AI, could you say more about what it's doing? Is it doing the segmentation for you? Is it creating customer groups, clusters? If you could peel it back a little bit.
Yeah, so I think at least the initial journey is we're going to feed into the model the segments that we view, kind of exist, and then allow the model to analyze for us where the price elasticity is. At what point do we begin to see a fall off in volume? Are we seeing a fall off in volume for specific segments or specific products? And perhaps being driven by market changes that we're unaware of. Is there a competitive product in the market that we're unaware of yet, and we're starting to see some leading indicators? And so is there a way that the AI model can see some of those trends before we do?
Okay, so is that sort of bleeding into pricing intelligence, gathering what competitors are doing at some level, as well as the look back on existing transactions?
Yeah, so I don't know. We are not yet in our journey to be gathering the data on customers, on competitors, and feeding that into the model yet. I hope to get there, but we're just not there yet. We're still in the crawling stage before we get to the running stage.
Very, very exciting. And this is also done internally then, right?
Yes, we're, as part of this ERP project, we're trying to build out, the foundations and the hooks and the data elements to be able to feed into these models.
So do you actually hire AI people, or do you use third-party developers, or how do you develop, your own machine learning systems?
So several years ago, we brought somebody on board, and his job is literally innovation for us. And so a lot of that has been around the IT side, particularly with AI. And then he's hiring a team that he's training in some of these tools and avenues so that we can build that in-house.
Several years ago. Well, you're ahead of the curve.
Sometimes it takes us a long time to get around the curve.
Let's go to the third one that you mentioned. Also very interesting. Love to hear your thoughts on where that would go.
With respect to demand forecasting and inventory?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's kind of the answer that we're all looking for is what is the customer going to buy tomorrow?
Yeah.
And what is that optimal inventory mix that I need to have on the floor at any given time? And so I think that, data and AI is getting to the point now where I think we're going to be able to answer that question far better than we have in the past. I think you're going to be able to look at seasonal patterns. In our business, presidential elections are a huge spike in demand just because of the amount of direct mail pieces that we all get in the mail on, whether it's state, national, local elections. And so feeding that all in and trying to predict where those demand patterns are going to be, it's not something that we've been very good at. I think the tools are somewhat there in Excel, but I don't know that we've leveraged them as well as we could have in the past. And I think AI is going to help accelerate that far more here in the future.
And so will that mean better balance of in stock and reduction in working capital? Is it that kind of a edge that you're on there?
Yeah, I would say that we're looking at, we always kind of measure stock outs and then kind of looking at, we have a turn and earn index that we look at for most of our SKUs. And I think optimizing those types of metrics overall, and particularly with where interest rates are today, there's significant money. It was one thing when money was free and interest rates were, near zero. But in today's environment, there's real juice to be squeezed from that rock.
I've seen in a number of student projects, by the way, at University of Colorado, we were working with a significant distributor on this type of a thing. It was more of a lead time than demand forecasting, but the benefit would be similar. I think there were 6 projects with 4 students on each one, and they were seeing about an 8% reduction in working capital.
Wow.
I mean, it was really significant. And by the way, this really was like their second project they had done. It was a projects course. So I think there's a lot of potential for that type of a solution. Let's talk more about maybe how you think about AI and how you introduce it into how you have introduced it into the culture at Millcraft.
Yeah, so I think that I find that things that are unknown or people are unsure about, they get very worried and fearful about. And so the way I view AI is, I think the world is transitioning. And it used to be that if I wanted to know something about a product that anybody was selling, I would go to the source of all knowledge, which was a salesperson. Well, in today's world, if you want to know something technical about a product, you Google it, you go onto a website, you look for that data. So I think the interesting thing is the world's moving from knowledge, which we all used to have in our heads, and now knowledge has been put in databases. And we all can find those databases with Google or any of the other tools. The real question going forward is to, I think, get our team to understand that it's okay for us to take the knowledge out of our heads and put it into a database that AI can go into. The real trick is going to be, what are the questions that you're telling AI to ask? And how are you framing those questions? Because that's going to be the secret sauce, in my opinion, going forward. And so it's getting our folks more comfortable with, you don't have to know, you don't have to have the knowledge anymore. We're not relying on you for that. We're relying on you for the wisdom of what questions to ask that model to get the right answer.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful. I think, I've heard people say, well, we're all going to have an assistant in our pockets. But that's underselling it. We're all going to have an oracle in our pockets. So, I mean, you remember the old cartoons where somebody's in the Himalayas climbing up to talk to the oracle. Well, the important part of that was, what's the question you're going to ask when you get there? Which is your point, right? It's like the oracle has all the knowledge, but depending on the question you ask and how you phrase it, which is what you're talking about, you're going to get very different quality and thoroughness and angle on your answer.
Yeah, I just went through a session with a guy named Chip Connolly, who has wrote a number of books out there, and super insightful guy. And he had a great quote about knowledge versus wisdom. He said, knowledge is understanding that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. And so the question, I think, as we go forward is, will the AI models know, if I ask the question, hey, I'm going to make a fruit salad, what's the #1 selling fruit? They might tell me tomato.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't think I want to put that in my fruit salad.
Right.
Do you know the past tense of wisdom? Was dumb.
That's exactly right.
No, that's terrible.
Goes back to our earlier point that you learn more from your failures than you do your successes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so you set this tone about AI and technology in the company. You've got a use case of where people were able to see that AI is going to be deployed. They didn't lose their job. They kept the customers happy. They made the customers even happier, reduced errors, quick turnaround time in the order, et cetera. What else are you doing to set a tone of adopting technology to be used in conjunction with relationships, right? Because it really is now analytics and relationships, not analytics or relationships.
No, it's a great point. And I think what you have to do is paint a picture of what tomorrow is. and get people to really understand that it can be better. I mean, think about the benefit. If I care so much about my customers that I want to be sure the order was entered correctly because I don't want to let them down. Now flip that model and say, here's what this model is. We're going to be able to use AI to ensure that we have the right products on the right floor at the right quantity for our customers so that they can actually improve their turn times, increase their service level with their customers. They can make bigger, bolder, better promises to help them grow their business. And all because we're leveraging investments that we've made in a foundation that our customers can build their future on.
So you're really bringing that, it helps the customer angle. You're emphasizing that again, which I think is a really big takeaway here, that happy employees make happy customers, make happy employees. That's just this nice virtuous feedback thing. But it sounds like you've really inculcated that in your culture, is that we want to make our customers happy, and your employees are understanding these technology, this adoption of these different technologies. AI is a way to do that.
Well, look, I think there's a lot of different ways to run a business, but in my opinion, customers aren't going to buy from us because we've implemented some kind of technology that allows us to eliminate jobs and increase profits. Now, they will if that results in lower prices for them, but everybody always asks the question, what's in it for me? And so if we're going to integrate AI technology into any facet of our business, what's the value? What's the value? Why is that important and interesting to customers? How is it going to make their life better? And I think you've got to be able to answer that question, because you can't sell what you haven't bought. And if you're not selling the value outside of your organization, then, my experience is you're going to have a very internally focused company. And you're going to have to really think through what the culture is that you're creating, because that's a tough environment when people are just looking for the next iteration of technology to wipe out their value proposition internally.
Yeah, I think RP is one of our regular guests, just made a comment. Another thing to consider are the correlations that we may not be thinking about, but would take a long time to discover, but AI models can do it quickly. And what that reminded me of is, I remember in my corporate career, I often wondered if I could establish a correlation between pickup truck sales and contractor sales opportunities for us. So if I was running if I was a contractor or marketing manager somewhere, could I know what would happen in a market by knowing pickup truck sales? Or maybe it's the toolboxes that go in pickup trucks, or and I didn't. But the point is, that's just one data point. There may, it's like when Walmart, when there's disaster approaching, like a hurricane, Walmart sells out of, I don't know, it's like a raspberry Kool-Aid or something that you would never associate with disasters, right? But that becomes the key indicator, or the Waffle House closure index, right? And I wonder how many of those are out there that you could actually tie things like inventory forecasting to, or any kind of overall demand or customer satisfaction that as humans we just aren't going to think of, or if we do, it'll be years.
Well, I think that goes back to the conversation we were just having about how do you leverage this technology and this acceleration of learning so that we can ask better questions faster.
Right. Ask better questions faster. Well said. Go ahead, Jonathan.
The effect on how you recruit.
So that's a great question. I believe recruiting is nothing more than selling. And you've got to sell people on what the future is. Why am I joining this organization? What's it like? What are the opportunities it's going to give me? Just like with customers, if it's all about money and I'm going to pay you $1 more an hour than, the business down the street, you're going to be gone in a year when somebody just ups the ante. So I think it's important to tell the story of who your organization is, where you're going, the vibrancy that exists with learning opportunities, and to be able to bring somebody into an organization and say, Jonathan, today you can join the organization and you're going to be in this role, but let me introduce you to 5 people that were in a role 2 years ago that is totally different today because, they went down a different path and they found an opportunity and they chased it. And
Right.
here's what they're, doing today. They're now in AI and they're training different models, or they're now in sales versus something else, or they're a technical resource.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is exciting.
So Ian and I have a debate that is not going to be settled anytime soon, but I'd be curious to phrase the debate for you and have you weigh in on it.
Sure, I love an argument.
Okay, good. You may be playing arbiter here. Who knows? So I think that AI in distribution is going to be more about freeing up people to do higher level functions. Certainly the knowledge workers, I see, my belief, C sounds like Oracle. My belief is that knowledge workers are going to be freed up to do higher level functions, and they will become more efficient at doing even better things with AI. Ian's feeling is, tell me if I'm incorrect, is that we're going to see significant reduction in force over a 4, 5, or 6 year period, even among the knowledge workers, or perhaps especially among the knowledge workers.
Did you ever contemplate you could both be right?
Tell us how.
Well, if you think about it, there's no question that AI is going to allow us to automate or speed up certain jobs, and it's going to reduce the number of hours that we need to spend on certain things. But we also know that in any business, not just distribution, if you are treading water, you are going to die. At some point, somebody is going to catch you and eclipse you and provide a different, better value proposition than what you're providing today. So if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not evolving, you are going to become extinct. And so I think that what you're going to see is, if you look at a business in static and say, we're not going to change from what we are today, but I'm going to be able to automate all these functions, then I believe, Ian, you're correct. Those roles for the static value prop that you're offering today will shrink, it will go down, and you'll be able to eliminate a number of positions. However, if you freed up 20% or 30% or 40% of your week, and you had the opportunity to then spend it on dreaming of ways that you could create new value and accelerate your growth going forward to stay one step ahead of the competition, then all of a sudden you freed up the budget to allow you to grow into that new space with the right people, of course, and take people from old roles and begin to evolve them into these new positions. And I think that's why it's going to be critical as we go forward, Jonathan. It's not going to be as much about, did you go to the University of Colorado? And as a result, we're going to hire you. It's really about, how curious are you? How committed to learning and evolving and changing are you? Because if I hire you today, in 5 years, your role may be eliminated by 50%, in which case I want the people that are curious on board and excited about learning something new and continuing to grow and evolve. Otherwise, you're going to lose that institutional knowledge. Culture is going to be very challenged with all of these newcomers coming in and not carrying forward the stories of who you are and where you've gone. So I think you're both right.
So just to provide a little nuance to my position, I think this is long-term, right? Maybe 20 years. This in the long term, every technology has created more jobs than it's displaced. I mean, or I don't know about every technology. That's the general trend, is that, you in the long run, it creates more jobs because of the economic activity it creates. And, you've got to survive the transition, because you can't just take coal miners and turn them into coders, right? But we've never had a technology that has the potential to do literally everything better than a human being can do. And so I don't know if there's gonna be anything left. So this is what I think is different about AI, is there's never been anything that has the potential to literally exceed human capacity on maybe almost everything is an exaggeration, but at most things people do. So I think that changes the equation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The other variable that changes the equation is the assumption that our society is going to count on people doing 40 hours of work and that we won't find an alternative way of, supporting people. The problem with that is the most common thing that gets suggested is UBI, universal basic income. And human beings do not have a good history of good behavior once they get free money. So, I think it's complicated. This is sort of my it's a little more nuanced, but I do think it's a problem society's going to have to wrestle with.
I certainly think it's a problem. I'll butcher the quote, but Picasso had a quote about computers, and he said, "I have no use for computers. All they do is give you answers." And if you think about the advent of computers, they had the ability to do all of the knowledge work that we were doing at the time better, faster, more accurate. I go back to the AI model, and I think it's going to unlock and open up new doors that's going to require new thinking. And I think that's the exciting thing. It's really going to be about the questions that we're asking of the model going forward, or how fast can we learn from the model going forward, versus all of us sitting around because a robot's doing our job. I mean, certainly there will be parts of our society that change dramatically, but think about all the people that are going to have to work on robots and understand how to program them, and what are the nuances with this operation versus that operation. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think it's very exciting.
Sorry. I'll go spiritual here for you in a second, Travis. A rabbi was teaching a course at a local university. This is not a joke. This isn't like rabbi walks into a bar. Rabbi was teaching a course at a local university. You know what the final exam was? Write down all the questions.
Interesting.
Huh?
Pretty deep, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, because writing the phrasing of the question is the art. I mean, he was grading people on the quality of the questions that they asked. So I love the way you've tied that into how we're thinking about AI and the use of this powerful technology going forward.
Okay, well, I think we're ready to wrap up today, gentlemen. Wow, Travis, we went to some cool places in this conversation that I didn't know were coming. You're so knowledgeable on the subject, and you have this. It's funny because I told you in the prep call that I watched you do a presentation at an association webinar in November of 2022, and it looked like an economist's presentation of an overview of the industry. Now we're talking about AI, not just in terms of the mechanics of it, but the philosophy of it. You're like a Renaissance man.
See you Buffaloes, Ian.
What's that?
See you Buffaloes. What can I tell you?
Yeah, don't get me started. Don't get me started. You get you Dion guys. Okay, good. So let me tell you about a couple of upcoming things. One is, this is just one panel from our amazing conference. So Tony Ogg is the former CTO of digital for Arrow Electronics, one of the largest distributors in the world. Arjun is the director, I'm not going to try his last name, is director and head of data science at Wesco International, one of the largest electrical distributors in the world. Emanuela Delgado is the growth VP at Partstown Unlimited, a really fast growing, incredible distributor that's actually run by a guy that used to work for me. And he actually overcame that experience and is running a great company now. So this is just one panel. Of course, we have our White House CIO stopping by. We've got someone who was on the launch team at ChatGPT, OpenAI. We've got, of course, ORS and Profit Optics and Intershop coming, as well as about 25 other technology companies talking specifically about the AI capabilities that they offer to distributors. Before then, on May 15th, do not miss State of Customer Experience and Distribution. So this is being led by our Chief Customer Officer, Brian Hopkins, who has an incredible background in distribution, hosted by me. I got a pretty good background myself. We think as availability is becoming commoditized, customer experience is the primary differentiator for distributors. And there are a lot of things that affect that. So we're going to talk about how to do it right and mistakes to avoid. May 22nd, Boosting Your Profits with Technology. This is a discussion panel with Graham Smith at Esker and Frank Heenan at Epicor. I mean, this is just phenomenal content. It's, other than the conference, it's free to you. So please, feel free to sign up. But wow, Jonathan, what a great discussion today, huh?
Absolutely. I knew it was going to be good.
Me too. And Travis, thank you, my friend. We owe you. Let us know how we can help you. And thank you for making time for us and our audience today.
And Jonathan, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Wholesale Change.